If you have a fantasy draft coming up, this is the video you need to watch, because I'm going to walk you through exactly what you need to be doing in every single round of your draft to make sure that you come out with the best team possible. And this will work whether it's your first fantasy draft ever or you're in a very serious league of like 10 plus years. Now, if you're not familiar, my name's Sal Vetri. I've been helping people win their fantasy leagues for nearly 8 years now, and I plan to do the same for you with this video. Now, before the draft even begins, here's a tip. Spend a few minutes queuing up the players that you actually want to draft. This is important because it always keeps you one step ahead of your league mates, and while you're on the clock, you don't have to worry about running out of time and making a panic pick. Okay, so now that the draft is starting in rounds 1 through 2, this is what my strategy is going to be. I have the 7th pick in this draft. This is the PFF mock draft simulator. I'm not affiliated. It's just very easy to use on these videos right here. And in the first round of your draft, and this also applies for the second round, I'm looking to target the best available elite wide receiver or running back, but I would like to lean in round 1 to running backs if possible. Now, oftentimes in this range of the draft, you're going to obviously have these top guys here, right? You have the ADP, the Jamar Chases, Saquon, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs. These are all the guys who go off the board like 1 through 6. And as you can see in this specific draft right here, that's exactly what happened. Almost in order of ADP, these guys have gone off the board, which leaves me at pick 7. And again, we're looking for an elite running back or wide receiver. Basically, everybody in the first round is that, but I'm going to lean right here based on my rankings. Christian McCaffrey is the guy who is the highest in my rankings, and he fills the void, in my opinion, of wanting to go out and getting an elite running back to lean on early on, because in home leagues, a lot of the times, especially your half PPR formats, those running backs go off the board early. Your friends and family members love taking running backs. And when you get a running back early, it tends to lead to a quote-unquote hero RB approach. If you've ever heard that, you take one running back early and it allows you to sort out some other positions for your next 3 to 4 or 5 picks. So now I'm in round 2, and these are the best available players that are on the board. Again, our strategy is still to take the best available running back or wide receiver. Since I got a high-end running back in round 1, I tend to lean to wide receiver in round 2, especially since guys like Devon Achane are off the board. I'm going to be leaning more towards wide receiver. And for me, based on my rankings, I'm going to go with Drake London here in round 2. So based on what this draft is currently looking like for us, if we go down to my team, the first 2 rounds of the draft, the goal was to get an elite running back and wide receiver, and I believe we got that. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, if he stays healthy, could be the #1 overall player in fantasy. We got our hero RB. And then Drake London, in terms of what I mean by elite wide receivers, it's a guy who can go out there and get 150 plus targets, like Drake London did last year. I mean, the guy caught 100 balls. His over-under this year is set at like 88 receptions. I like that. He's a high-volume wide receiver 1. Now, here's where the draft starts to get fun, in round 3. In this range, you want to target an elite mobile quarterback. Now, since we're in round 3, sometimes you can get lucky, and a guy like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, who usually go at the end of round 2, will fall into round 3. If we scroll down a little bit more, oftentimes you're mostly going to see Jaden Daniels here. Maybe you have to reach in some drafts and you'll get like a Jalen Hurts, who does fall into round 4 a lot of drafts as well. So that's what I'm talking about with an elite mobile QB, because in your home leagues, if you think that you're good, and if you're watching this video, you're probably better than the average person in your league, well, odds are if you're good, then in rounds 8 through 15, you're going to be better at identifying value and upside players than your league mates. So you might as well get the elite quarterback early if you can, assuming that your league isn't a bunch of sickos. Now, if we come back to the draft that I'm in specifically here, since I do have the 7th pick, it's a lot harder to land like a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen. If we pull up the quarterback situation, it's not great. It's Joe Burrow, who I'm not interested in, definitely not in round 3. It's Mahomes. Like, even Jalen Hurts has come off the board already. So what I'm going to do is take the best available player. And honestly, Chase Brown right now for me in round 3 is going to be that player. So we're going to go in here and we're going to go get Chase Brown, which sets up now to a situation where I probably don't have to take another running back for a while. Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, Drake London, these are 3 of my top 20 overall ranked players right now in my top 50 overall rankings. So I like where we're at right now. I think that if you can't get that elite mobile quarterback, then your next best option is to go out there and continue to target the highest upside wide receiver or running back that's on the board. Now we get into round 4, and here's a general tip for you. Make sure that you just don't overlook preseason. A lot of people say it's just a preseason, it doesn't matter. No, these teams start to show their hand at how they want to use their first team offense. Like, for example, we're seeing the rookie running back 2nd round pick RJ Harvey of the Denver Broncos to start the preseason in their first game with the starters. He started. He played 63% of the snaps ahead of J.K. Dobbins. That's a very good indication of how they view that backfield, the situations that they put him in. They spent the 2nd round pick on him. They put more investment, in my opinion, in him than J.K. Dobbins, a late addition in free agency. And we just saw that play out in the preseason with the first team offense. All right, so now that we're in round 4, my ideal strategy for round 4 has been most of the summer targeting a George Kittle or a Jalen Hurts here if they fall into round 4. But more often now, these guys are starting to go at the end of round 3, which when you have the 7th pick in the draft, it's really hard to get these guys. If they happen to be there in order, my priority is George Kittle and Jalen Hurts. If they end up being gone, then we go right back to the game plan. There's not any other value tight ends here or quarterbacks, in my opinion. Right back to the game plan of upside wide receivers and running backs. So if we go back to my current draft right now, you can see on the board, there's no George Kittle left. There's no Jalen Hurts. It's a bunch of wide receivers and running running backs who are very good. And honestly, at this point in the draft, Omarion Hampton has fallen to the 4th round. I'm taking Omarion Hampton. And this is a very strange build, especially if you've been watching my live streams on the channel that we've been doing, partnering up with DraftKings Best Ball for those. Because this might be the first draft all summer long where I've gotten 3 running backs with my first 4 picks, but it's just the way that the board has fallen to us. Like, I already have now my flex filled out with Omarion Hampton. Feels really good. By the end of August, he might be a 2nd round pick in fantasy drafts the way that he's trending. Wide receiver 1 in Drake London, Chase Brown, Christian McCaffrey. We can now fill out the rest of our positions here. We have another wide receiver spot, a tight end spot. If we want to go back to running back, like, here's a strategy. I don't think you have to just fill out your starting lineup. I'll probably end up taking another couple of wide receivers or running backs before my starting tight end. I'd rather not just overpay for a tight end just to fill the position if I can get an equal or better one later on. Now, that said, as we approach round 5, one strategy though is that you should not be afraid to at least reach a little bit on the guys that you want. This doesn't mean 2 or 3 rounds for a tight end, but if you want to reach 5, 6, 7 spots in ADP to get the guy that you want, go ahead and do that. Like, here's an example for round 5, right? We're in round 5 right now. In terms of ADP, round 5 on average starts right here. The 49th overall pick, Rashee Rice. I'm picking right around pick like 55. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, you'll notice that Travion Henderson goes 5 picks later than my pick. 9 picks later is where Tetairoa McMillan goes. I'm actually okay to reach like 9 picks past ADP to land a guy like Tetairoa McMillan, who I think is the wide receiver 1 on his team, has a ton of upside. They're basically building that offense around him. I'm fine reaching like a half a round to a round because I know he's probably not going to be back on the board by my 6th pick. And if it's like 6 to 8 to maybe 9 spots in ADP, I could live with that come week 8 if he's dominating on my team instead of passing on him and seeing him on someone else's team. And it's pretty funny how these things work out because here's the coincidence right now. In round 5, Tetairoa McMillan is on the board. I could take Jameson Williams. I could take Devonta Smith. I'm going to go ahead and get Tetairoa McMillan. He's going to end up being, if we go over to my team, the wide receiver 2 on my team that already has 2 running backs in Chase Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Drake London, already has an Omarion Hampton who fell to us. We get Tetairoa McMillan around ADP, maybe a couple of picks we reached on him. That's fine. And now we're at a point in the draft where we're 5 rounds in. We have 3 running backs, 2 high-end wide receivers. Things are looking pretty good. We're going to have to nail our tight end and quarterback in these later rounds, but that's okay. And if you want to make sure you nail the first 4 to 5 rounds of your draft, my free top 50 overall rankings will help you do just that. All you have to do is check the link in the description below or head to fantasyrankingsfree.com and that will take you to this page where you enter your email. I'll send you the top 50 rankings a couple minutes later. Just make sure to check your spam or promotional folders as well. And that will send you the top 50 rankings tiered, and it will highlight in green and red the best and worst picks in every single one of your rounds. But if you're a serious fantasy player and want my full top 250 overall rankings, all my other drafting tools, and my weekly tools from draft day to championship week, well, that's exactly why I built my fantasy blueprint. It's what I use in all my leagues, and over 10,000 people are currently using in their leagues right now. If you want to check it out and learn more about the blueprint, it's linked down below. You could also head to jointheblueprint.com. You can read about everything you get and everything that's involved in the blueprint, the origins of it, and also you can check out right here all of the other reviews and recommendations from a bunch of people who used the blueprint last year and are back this year, because over 85% of people, nearly 9 out of 10 people who signed up last year are back this year. I think that's the best metric just to kind of show you how good or at least quality the blueprint is. People got it last year and said, yeah, I'm back this year as well. So if your goal is to smack around your friends, your league mates, your family, and just get the bragging rights, maybe win some money in your league, the blueprint will help you do that. You can check it out with the link in the description below, or you can head to jointheblueprint.com. There are limited spots available for this year, so if you want in, right now's the time. Okay, so now we're in round 6 of the draft. Again, I'm not worried about filling my starting lineup first, because like as of right now, we have our 2 receivers, we have our 2 running backs, we have our flex. Technically, to fill our lineup, we would need to go out there and get a kicker, a defense, a quarterback, or a tight end, but that's not the best scenario. Because sure, you can see there's a TJ Hawkinson on the board, but I think much better players are all these wide receivers around him, whether it's a Chris Olave, a Jalen Waddle, a Courtland Sutton, a George Pickens, like all these guys are still on the board in round 6. I think a lot of them are very close in terms of a Courtland Sutton and a George Pickens, very close at this point. I think Sutton's probably the best pick overall, but I'll take the upside here. Since we already have a couple of secure volume plays, in my opinion, I'll go out here, and this seems a little bit strange, right, in terms of taking George Pickens over a Courtland Sutton, but it's based on the specific team that I'm building. Courtland Sutton, the wide receiver 1 on his team, probably locked into like 120 targets. But when I look at the team that I have built right here, I feel very secure about my running backs, my wide receivers, in terms of London getting 150 targets. McMillan can threaten for 150 targets. I'm going to go out and get the guy in George Pickens, who could be this year's T. Higgins, in my opinion, a wide receiver 2 on a top 5 passing offense in the league, for a guy who can go out there and get 130 targets, but also threaten for double-digit touchdowns. That's the role that George Pickens is going to play in his offense this year. He's going to go out there, CeeDee Lamb's going to take up all the attention, he's going to get one-on-ones on the outside, and especially in the red zone, see a lot of usage. Now we get into round 7, and here's my tip for you. Make sure that you're using player tiers, not just standard rankings or like the ESPN or Yahoo rankings. That's like a perfect way to lose your league. I personally have my own tiers, as you can see right here. They're updated weekly in the Fantasy Blueprint, and the whole reason is that it's positional. You can see who the best and worst values are. You'll know exactly where the values are. So like, let's just say a bunch of wide receivers. If all these wide receivers are gone in terms of the tiers and these running backs are still left, it's pretty easy to see that Ashton Jeanty is a much better value, at least based on my tiers, than like an AJ Brown, which that one seems a little bit obvious, but that's going to tell you that all throughout the drafts. In the middle and the later rounds, it'll show you easily where the pockets of value are at each position and who those specific players are that are valuable right there. It's like an entire cheat code to your draft when you have player tiers. Make sure you're using them. Now, in past seasons, we're in round 7 right now, and these are some of the guys on the board. Best available, they just all happen to be wide receivers. In past seasons, I would recommend in round 7 to start targeting running backs in this round of the draft, because normally the wide receiver value starts to crack a little bit and the running backs are very heavy. But in this specific draft, we already have 3 running backs, and this year specifically, wide receiver value goes so deep. I mean, we're in round 7 and Jakobi Meyers, a wide receiver 1 on his team, is still available on the board right now. Matthew Golden is still available probably until round 8, a potential wide receiver 1 on his team, with Jaden Reed dealing with his own injuries. So at this point in the draft, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to go ahead and draft the Jakobi Meyers if we pull it up right now. And again, this is going to be now my 4th wide receiver on this team. I'm okay getting another wide receiver on my bench with George Pickens ahead of a tight end, because the tight ends at this point in the draft and quarterbacks are just not that great. And specifically for Jakobi Meyers, like right now, his competition based on preseason usage and what we're getting out of camp reports, starting wide receivers are probably going to be like a Trey Tucker and a Deontay Thornton. Like Deontay Thornton, he has the speed, he has the size, but this is a later round wide receiver rookie who's going to be competing with Jakobi Meyers, Brock Bowers, and Ashton Jeanty for targets. I'm not threatened by that. At this point, it's Jakobi Meyers who's probably going to come out here with Brock Bowers seeing attention in the middle of the field, operate more on the outside where he found success last year, and see easily, if he stays healthy, 120 targets, maybe upwards of 140 or 150 targets with a quarterback upgrade in Geno Smith as my 7th round pick and 4th receiver on my team. Yeah, I like that. Now we're starting to get into round 8 and 9 of the draft, and this is the average draft position for these rounds. In this round of the draft, you start to get a little bit of a quarterback sweet spot. It starts with the Kyler Murray, and if we scroll a little bit down, you're going to see Brock Purdy pop up in this range. You're going to see Justin Fields pop up in this range. Depending on what you think of Dak Prescott, he pops up in this range. Normally, Drake May goes in like round 10, but maybe you want to take him earlier in round 9 if quarterbacks are going off the board. This is where the sweet spot comes in. In one of these rounds, maybe even both, but probably just one of these rounds, I'm going to try and get a quarterback right now for my team. Typically, I aim for a Brock Purdy in my drafts. Now, if I filter by quarterbacks, a couple of the guys that I like in round 8 are still on the board. You could see Justin Fields and Brock Purdy. I just mentioned them as the guys who are in the quarterback sweet spots of this round 8 to 9, maybe one extended to round 10. I'm going to go ahead and take Brock Purdy here. I like Justin Fields. I recognize the upside, but Brock Purdy in one of the best offenses, projected for the most points with Kyle Shanahan, still has weapons, even if half of them are banged up. You still have McCaffrey, you still have Kittle, you still have Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings, who should be good by week 1. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to get our quarterback now. And if we show you exactly what this team starts to look like, we have Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. Some people might say, oh, are you concerned about that? No, I'm not. Like, I'm just soaking up all of the offense in a top 3 projected offense for this year. That's fine. We have Chase Brown as RB2, Drake London and McMillan as our wide receivers, at least right now starting, Omarion Hampton as our flex, and then the bench is George Pickens and Jakobi Meyers through 8 rounds of a 12-team format. This is a half PPR format. Again, this is feeling like a perfect draft. I would love to have this team for my fantasy league. We got a little bit lucky, right? Both Chase Brown and Omarion Hampton probably fell like 4 to 5 picks past ADP, which might not happen in your home leagues, but sometimes you just need that. Now, I'll also point out we still need a tight end, and in round 9, oftentimes, sometimes he goes in round 8 now, David Njoku does fall. If David Njoku falls, this is how I'm approaching the tight end position this year. I will take him in round 9 of drafts, sometimes round 8 if the quarterbacks I like aren't there, but Purdy happened to be there. So kind of tight end this year is like try and get George Kittle in round 4. He's usually not there anymore. Trying to get David Njoku in like round 9. If he's gone, then just wait till the end and like get a couple of guys to just piece together. Now, if I pull up the best available tight ends, sadly, David Njoku did go off the board. That's kind of expected. So at this point, I don't really want Tucker Kraft. I think there's better options elsewhere. And honestly, I think I could wait like 2 or 3 rounds and get Jake Ferguson, who I don't view as that much different than Tucker Kraft, who's probably going to be in a more pass-friendly offense, who's probably going to have a better red zone role in his offense, in my opinion. Heck, Chigakonku is going to go like 5 rounds later. Even a Brenton Strange, these are tight end ones in their offenses that should be ascending this year. So I'm going to hold off on tight end at this point in round 9. Since we already got our quarterback 1 in Brock Purdy, we could double tap the position. We'll probably take another quarterback at some point, but for right now, we're just going to keep loading up on running backs and wide receivers. So okay, we're in round 9. We're not going tight end. We have quarterback. We just want best available running back or wide receiver. Things start to get a little bit thin here. You have Khalil Shakur, might not even be ready week 1. High ankle sprain's a little bit of a concern. You do have positive reports coming coming out about Javonte Williams. Cam Scadaboo dealing with a hamstring, doesn't feel real good right now. Tank Bigsby in a 3 out of backfield. Josh Downs, quarterback situation isn't great, although I don't hate it. I don't hate Josh Downs. As it stands right now, based on my rankings right now in tiers, if I scroll a bunch based on the options, Josh Downs and Javonte Williams are our best available players. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to end up taking Josh Downs. And let me explain this to you in this way. Like Javonte Williams maybe is the better pick there. I think there's a chance he falls to round 10, but we literally already have Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, and Marion Hampton. Those guys are probably never sitting in my lineup, and if they do, it's because a wide receiver on my bench is getting in the flex like over an Marion Hampton. So I just don't need Javonte Williams. I'll take another shot on who I believe is the wide receiver 1 for his team, and Josh Downs. I know the quarterback situation is bad. That's exactly why Josh Downs goes in round 9 and like not round 4, but Michael Pittman's been dealing with injuries so far this year. I'm not concerned about the other guys here in Adonai Mitchell and Alec Pierce. If you look at what Josh Downs did last season, I mean, the guy was an absolute beast in terms of his target share. 26% target share is borderline elite. His 29% target rate is elite. 6th best in the league. The only guys ahead of him were the names that you would know, like Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, the elite of the elite wide receivers who go in like round 1, 2, maybe 3 of fantasy drafts. Josh Downs in round 9 because of the quarterback situation. I'll take that. And now we're at a spot in this draft where we end up having our quarterback. We have McCaffrey, we have Chase Brown. You probably know this team by heart now. Drake London, Tedero McMillan, Amarion Hampton, and our bench depth is great. George Pickens, Jacoby Myers, Josh Downs. We now have 5 wide receivers, 3 running backs, a quarterback. We're approaching round 10. I'm going to start to look at the tight end position. Jake Ferguson's appealing. Maybe there's another running back who falls to me. If Javonte Williams is still there, I'll consider it. And it just so happens that Javonte is still on the board. Like if you look across different positions, there's some quarterbacks here. There's a Dylan Sampson, a little bit too early for him. There's some tight ends. There's a Travis Etienne who people are going to probably start flocking to after the first preseason usage, although I think it's maybe a little bit skewed. I'm going to go out here and I'm just going to take Javonte Williams at this point. Everything we've seen this offseason about Javonte has been that he is the lead back in this offense basically since OTAs. And over the past like 1 to 2 weeks, all that's happened is Jaden Blue, the rookie, ended up leaving practice on a cart. He's banged up. Miles Sanders is apparently dealing with some injuries. I know Phil Maffa, a lot of people like him and they were excited about his first preseason game, but he's not anywhere near in terms ready, or I would say like set in stone as a Javonte Williams who can pass protect, who can catch passes, quietly ranked top 5 in running back receptions with the Broncos last year. And he's another year removed from this injury behind what should be hopefully a quality offensive line if they can get healthy by week 1, and which should be a top 5 passing offense, which leads to a lot of potential check down targets for Javonte. So if he's my running back 4 in round 10 of drafts, I'm okay with that. And by the way, a tip for you when you get to round 10 of your fantasy drafts is to just ignore bye weeks. In my opinion, you don't have to worry about them. You're going to have so many opportunities during the season to look at the waiver wire, to make trades, to change up your roster, that you shouldn't let the draft impact if you're taking good players or not based on bye weeks. So now we're in round 11 of fantasy drafts, and I just want to pull this up. This is the quarterback's ADP this year, because in round 11, if you still need your QB1, this in my opinion is the absolute latest you should be trying to get one. JJ McCarthy is usually on the board here, and Trevor Lawrence is usually on the board in round 11, usually also falls to round 12, so this also applies for round 12. If you have not got your quarterback yet, you need to get one. If you got your quarterback early, you could wait to take your second quarterback later in like round 14, or not even take one if you got like a Josh Allen. Now, if you're somebody like me who got a Brock Purdy in round 8 of this draft, I believe it was. Yeah, it was round 8, not 9. Then I probably should start to consider getting my QB2 around that round 12 of like a Trevor Lawrence, because I just don't want my backup to be somebody like Aaron Rodgers or Geno Smith. So we're in round 11 of this fantasy draft right now. My priorities: look at the tight end position, see who's best available there, see if there's a quality backup quarterback compared to what's left at running back and wide receiver. Those are kind of the priorities. So let's just practice what I preach, and we'll start at the tight end position. This is the priority. My hope was to, in round 11 of this fantasy draft, land Jake Ferguson. He is maybe the best available player on the entire board right now. It's him, it's Chigakonku, it's Brenton Strange, it's Isaiah Likely, all tight ends that in this range of the draft that I like, but I think that Jake Ferguson is head and shoulders above the rest in terms of his quarterback play, his offense compared to Jacksonville, Tennessee. Baltimore, obviously a great offense, but more run first. And in terms of just what his target share will be in the red zone, Jake Ferguson is somebody that I'm targeting, somebody that lately, and we saw it recently in one of the videos I released for tight ends, the must-have tight ends are the guys you should be drafting instead. Now, Jake Ferguson, yes, he's going to have competition in George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. That's of course. On this team specifically, we already have George Pickens. I'm okay with that. George Pickens wins in different ways than Jake Ferguson. Pickens is going to win downfield. CeeDee Lamb, middle of the field, sure. But we just saw a couple years ago, back in 2023, when Jake Ferguson and Dak Prescott were healthy, Ferguson went out there, even with CeeDee Lamb healthy, having a career year, almost 1,800 yards, a bunch of touchdowns. Jake Ferguson still led every single tight end in red zone catches and targets. Honestly, if I could just trade this team right now for like all of my season-long leagues teams, I think I would do it. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking. But Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, Drake London, Tedero McMillan, Jake Ferguson, Amarion Hampton are our starters. Obviously, kicker and defense will be our last 2 picks of the draft. If you didn't already know that, now you know. On the bench, Javonte Williams is a running back, George Pickens, Jacoby Myers, and Josh Downs. So now we're heading into round 12 of drafts. I still need a backup quarterback, a backup tight end, probably at some point is worthwhile here, and we'll continue to look at the best available running backs and wide receivers. In these later rounds, a tip for you, target the upside running backs over just like the aging wide receivers. Now, before we get into my round 12 pick and just who you should be taking in general in these later rounds, I just wanted to point out how important it is in the later rounds to be targeting pass-catching running backs, especially in PPR formats like DraftKings Best Ball. I mean, that's where players like Javonte Williams, who's going in like round 10 or 11 on average, we just took him in round 10, Ramondre Stevenson, who's going to be catching some passes as well, even in a split backfield. Ray Davis is a pass-catching running back. Rashad White, when he comes back from his injury, can catch passes. Dylan Sampson didn't see it a ton in college, but when he did it, it was quality. Baishal Tootin can catch passes. These guys all go between like rounds 10 and 12. You can go even later into the draft. Austin Eckler in round 13, obvious pass-catching running back, one of the best in the NFL. Woody Marks for the Texans with all their injuries to Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb being a little bit older, battling injuries. He goes in round 15. These are the perfect types of backs in the later rounds on a format like DraftKings Best Ball because they provide points just from the receptions alone. They get a full point per reception. And also, if anything happens to the starter ahead of them, now they have maybe a full-time role. Now, I've teamed up with DraftKings Best Ball, and right now they have an awesome offer going out. Draft one, get one. Enter the $20, $15 million NFL Best Ball contest, and you'll score another ticket to play free for a share of $15 million. And make sure you sign up using promo code SAL. Now, if you're not familiar, DraftKings Best Ball is a fantasy format where you draft your team once, there's no waivers, no trades, and no setting your lineups. And that's what makes DraftKings Best Ball so much fun. It's the best part of fantasy, drafting your team, and then you just get to watch it perform all year long. All right, so I just want to let you know about DraftKings Best Ball. It's crazy. They have a $15 million contest, $2 million to first, and how important late round running backs who can catch passes are, which is why if we score right now, I'm looking at a couple of guys here. Like, this is the range of the draft that we're in right now. Not a lot of great quarterbacks, not a lot of great running backs. We're in round 12. Guys like Ja'Cory Crockett Merritt are getting pushed up draft boards. I'm just going to take J.K. Dobbins. Like, I get it. R.J. Harvey is somebody that I personally like a lot. We saw in the first preseason game he started, played 63% of the snaps. He's the running back in this backfield that you want. That's why he goes in round 5 or 6 of fantasy drafts. But for J.K. Dobbins, who's going to probably play 40 to 50% of the snaps, maybe more if the rookie doesn't pan out, in round 12, I'll take that. And now, as we get to round 13, I just want to emphasize the tip again. This is where you want to start to lean on youth. I know I just took J.K. Dobbins in round 12. There wasn't a lot of youth that looked as good as him. He kind of felt like a round, but in these later rounds, 13 and further, emphasize young running backs with upside. And right now, if I go over to the running back page, you have the Browns running backs. We'll see what happens there with that situation in Quinshon Judkins. You have Braylon Allen, who's gaining some steam. You have Roschon Johnson. You have all these other guys right now. I'm just going to go ahead and take Dylan Sampson. Now, my concerns with Dylan Sampson, and again, this is a young running back. It's fitting the mold of a young running back with upside. We got a bunch of wide receivers in the middle rounds. We took our early round running backs. Now we're just loading up on some later round best availables. They just happen to be running backs. Now, in terms of Dylan Sampson, he's very interesting because Quinshon Judkins still hasn't signed his contract, still has a legal dispute. Probably the way that the things work in terms of them not wanting them to sign the contract, then he gets put on the commissioner's exempt list and the Browns have to pay him. It's all these behind the scenes stuff. He might not play football this year, and if he does, it might not be for 6 to 8 weeks, even if they settle. Jerome Ford's been dealing with an injury in camp, and we kind of know what he is at this point. Dylan Sampson provides some upside, 1,600 total yards last year in college. My one concern with Dylan Sampson would be the fact that this guy is only 200 pounds, and he probably put on like 5 to 10 pounds for the combine, probably drank a lot of water that morning. He's probably closer to a 190-pound back, which we saw Bucky Irving do this last year. We've seen Devon Achane do it. Younger or smaller backs and younger can have success in the NFL, but that would be my one concern. However, in round 13 of a fantasy draft, I'll take the young player with upside with a path to touches right away. Like, this guy literally could be a flex option by week 3 for me, and I got him in round 13. My tip for you for round 14 is skip the kicker. Wait until your last pick for the kicker position, and if you don't have to, if like you're not required to take a kicker in your draft, well then just go ahead and wait until week 1 begins. Because instead of taking a kicker in like round 14 or 15, why not just add Kyle Williams, a wide receiver, to your depth chart? Why not just go out here and add, Keenan Allen, a wide receiver, to your depth chart now on the Chargers? Because what if something happens to Ladd McConkey in his final practices or a preseason game? What if something happens to Stephon Diggs in New England in his final practices or a preseason game? Now you literally might have in Kyle Williams or Keenan Allen the number 1 wide receiver option on their team that you just ended up stashing on the end of your bench until week 1 instead of just a dusty old kicker. And another tip for you, if you're a real sicko, look at the IR position. Some guys are going to get put on IR before week 1. Spend your last pick in your draft on those guys, and right when the draft's over, go put them in your IR spot and pick up somebody else. It's a hack. Okay, so now I'm in round 14 of my draft, and normally this is where guys like a Keenan Allen go. This is where Cedric Tillman go, a bunch of backup quarterbacks and backup tight ends. So if I pull up my draft board specifically, we obviously have those 3 running backs who are studs with a flex option, and you can see my bench depth here. We have 3 running backs on the bench, and we have 3 wide receivers. So we can kind of take anybody we want here. If there's a good enough backup quarterback quarterback or tight end for round 14, sure. But if there's just a glaring wide receiver or running back that makes sense, sure. And now as I look in round 14 of drafts, I mean, Brenton Strange, a young upside player as a backup tight end to transition in and out with Jake Ferguson, I think will be my pick. But there's a Rachaad White on the board. He's fallen a little bit because of this day-to-day injury in training camp. Shouldn't be much of an issue or that he had in the preseason. Cedric Tillman this late is a lot of upside as well as an outside X receiver. You know what? Let's go Cedric Tillman here, and then I'll try and get the backup tight end next. We add Cedric Tillman as the 4th wide receiver on our bench, our 6th wide receiver overall. I mean, this is the X outside receiver right now for the Browns. Sure, it's not an exciting Browns offense. Joe Flacco is there, but we've seen Joe Flacco at the end of 2023 give a lot of production to the Browns players. For stretches last year with the Colts, he gave a lot of production to guys like Josh Downs, even Michael Pittman. And if your biggest competition is going to be Deontay Johnson, who's been working with the second team offense in preseason and in camp, and then you're going to be looking at Jerry Jeudy as your biggest competition at the wide receiver position, I like Jerry Jeudy. I think he's a solid wide receiver. We saw that last year with multiple different quarterbacks, but Cedric Tillman profiles out as a legit X, like a 215, 220 pound wide receiver on the outside. This is a guy who can break games open for the Browns, who are probably going to be trailing in a lot of games this year. Yeah, I'll take that in round 14. Now I want to start to target like the backup tight end in this specific draft. But a tip for you as you get to round 15 of your draft, and honestly, even earlier you could use this, I'm just bringing it up now, know your league mates' needs. When you're on the clock in like round 15, 16, 17, even like round 3 or 4, you might know like, oh, they already have 3 running backs. They're probably not going to take a running back. I could wait till the next round and maybe get that guy I want. This especially becomes the case in these rounds where you're looking in like round 15. If like you want a backup quarterback and your entire league already has 2 quarterbacks, we'll just wait because no one's probably taking 3 quarterbacks. Now I'm in round 14 of this draft. In terms of the tight ends versus quarterbacks, the tight ends are just better at this point. Like Brenton Strange, Isaiah Likely, even if he misses some time. After that, it does fall off kind of a cliff in terms of like some older guys or some rookies and some rookies battling injuries. I'm going to take Brenton Strange here. He's my backup tight end. If I would have went out there and took like, oh, I don't know, a Trey McBride in round 2, I probably don't even need to take a backup tight end. McBride's starting every single week as long as he's healthy, and if he's not healthy, then I have to hit the waiver wire anyways. But in this draft, where my tight end pick didn't come until like round 11 or 12 with Jake Ferguson, I think it's decent to at least get a second tight end option in a Brenton Strange, who in this lineup right here, Brenton Strange makes a lot of sense in my opinion. There's a chance that Brenton Strange is the number 1 option in the middle of the field for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Realistically, I think Brian Thomas will move there a little bit more this year. In the preseason, we saw Travis Hunter playing out of the slot 5 out of his 7 snaps in preseason week 1. But we did see Brenton Strange have a lot of upside last year in this offense at times when Evan Ingram was hurt, and that was with Mac Jones in there. He had like an 11 catch performance. Sure, these 2 wide receivers are going to be absolutely maybe the best young, maybe is outside of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, the best wide receiver duo already in terms of explosiveness and skill and potential in the NFL, Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter. But Brenton Strange being as like a round 15 pick, that's fine. I'm not expecting him to produce like a 5th round tight end. I know that he has the competition. I'm hoping that he has those 4 catch 50-yard games and happens to find the end zone if he's my tight end too. My round 16 tip for you is to just avoid players who are already injured. And the reason being is guys like Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk, they're dealing with injuries. They're already banged up. Khalil Shakur, they're dealing with injuries. Like just avoid these guys because injuries will find you in fantasy. You might as well not go finding them. Okay, so now we're in round 16, and honestly, round 16 through 18 in this draft, I have to take a kicker and a defense. So those will be my final 2 picks. So this is technically like my last pick of the draft. In round 16, these are the players who are normally available. Romeo Doubs, not a terrible round 16 option, going to be on the field in most, if not all, Packers 2 wide receiver sets. Josh Palmer has quietly a chance to be the X wide receiver on the outside, like at some point this season, maybe even beat out Keon Coleman for that role, which is pretty crazy. These are the players that I'm going to be targeting. You could still target a running back if you wanted to, like a Jarquez Hunter or a bunch of backups in this range, a Kyle Monangai of the Bears, a DJ Giddens, a backup for the Colts if you wanted to. I think my running back room is pretty set, especially with those strong top end guys. So I'll go out and I'll end up taking Josh Palmer. Romeo Doubs is off the board. So we take Josh Palmer. That ends up leaving our bench in terms of wide receiver depth. George Pickens, Jacoby Myers, Josh Downs, Cedric Tillman, and Josh Palmer. Feel really good about that. We end up drafting 7 wide receivers. I believe we ended up drafting 6 running backs in this one, 2 tight ends, and a quarterback. You might be saying, oh, you didn't get a backup quarterback. That's fine. I'm okay with Brock Purdy right now. The backup quarterback options are like Aaron Rodgers and Sam Darnold at this point in the draft. I'm probably going to cut those guys anyways. I'd rather have a Josh Palmer for the first couple weeks, see what he does on the Bills, and then if I have to drop him for a quarterback. These next couple of rounds of the draft will just be defense and kicker, but I will point out Marshawn Lloyd's back at practice as of this recording. I'm recording this a couple days earlier just in case anything happens at preseason and I don't disclose it. That's why, right? But Marshawn Lloyd's back at practice. He's a nice like 17th or 18th round pick if your draft goes that deep. Woody Marks is a pass catching running back with the injuries that they're dealing with in the Texans backfield. Will Shipley as a pure handcuff looked good in the first preseason game for the Eagles, operated ahead of A.J. Dillon. Obviously, just a play in terms of if Saquon, who had a lot of touches last year, ends up getting hurt. These are some of the guys, if you don't have to draft a kicker, or maybe you're in like a 20-round draft, that I'd be targeting in round 17 and 18 if I was able to take them right now. So there you have it. That is a full walkthrough on exactly how to be targeting your draft, whether you're a beginner or you're an expert in a bunch of different leagues. Now, before you go, make sure you grab those free top 50 overall rankings that are going to help you dominate the first 4 to 5 rounds of your draft. And if you're still here at this point, it means you probably liked the video. So make sure to also hit the subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds. We're pushing towards 200,000. It would mean a lot to me. It takes 2 seconds of your time. Please do that. So we ended up getting a couple of really stud running backs in this draft. But if you want to see my running backs ranked, my top 36 running back ranked in order, so you know exactly how to attack the position this year, you can check out this video right here. It's going to help you become an expert at the running back position in fantasy this season.